afternoon's SCE presentations. We've had a quiet morning, but I see that people are starting to wake up as more and more people are here. I want to remind everyone in the audience to use technology responsibly during the presentations. If you have a cell phone with you, will you please put it on silent now, so you make sure that if it rings, it doesn't interrupt the presentation. Also, I want to encourage people to ask lots of questions during the question and answer session. This is a really important way to help students demonstrate their knowledge of the topic that they've researched carefully. And do make sure that you couch your questions as questions so that we leave the locus of control with the student. There are some people at the door, if you'll excuse me just a moment. This afternoon's presenter has asked me to issue a caveat or warning to you. There are some graphic images in what she's about to show. So if you're a person who is sensitive to that kind of thing, you might want to be aware of it. I think that we're about to see a compelling presentation, and I thank you for coming to Rosalia's presentation.
As you were walking down the streets, you heard a murmuring. But as you slowly continued, you found yourself with front row seats to a horror scene. In the lonely, dark streets, the uproar of a man and the desperate cries of a woman were the only thing heard. Blow after blow, the frail figure of this 42-year-old woman was falling apart until she reached the point of unconsciousness. It was 11 p.m. when, with no more strength to fight, she fell to the ground, and her face hit the dirty asphalt paved road. As she described it today, she lived her life in a boxing ring without limits, with no rules, much less a bell announcing the end of the fight. This time, as did a month ago, and many times before, the barehanded fights knocked out her body, her soul, and her dreams. This is Angelica, victim of domestic violence for more than 10 years. Abuse for you and I might sound like something distant, horrible, and extreme, but for the thousands and hundreds of victims in the Dominican Republic, it is their reality. It is something they get used to. It is something frequent, not rare. It is something that sadly they see more often than not and start excusing their abusers for it. This is not just a bad day in the life of these women. It is their everyday, and it is their every minute thoughts and their everyday life. Good morning. My name is Rosalia Gachon, and today I will showcase my research on domestic violence against women and present my senior extended essay titled Love with Clenched Fists, the Fight Against Domestic Violence. Under the Dominican Law 24-97, specifically Article 309-1, domestic abuse against women is listed as any act or conduct, public or private, on account of their gender, which causes damage or physical, sexual, psychological suffering to the women through the use of physical force, psychological violence, verbal intimidation, or persecution. With that being said, this law leaves all acts of domestic violence condoned as illegal and sanctioned by imprisonment of 10 to 20 years and a fine of 100,000 to 200,000 pesos, stated in Article 303-2 of the Dominican Constitution. However, something very different seems to happen when the law is actually broken. In her 2008 article, the law, Maria Jesus Pora, states that in 45% of the cases, there appears reference that the police was alerted from the moment the violence began. However, they showed up soon after the victim was already dead. These policemen had been alerted, argued that those were quarrels between husband and wife, that they were not almost on their way, and that they had no vehicle to transport. And others added that it was late and they would pass by the next morning. Olivia Marble reports that in 2010, only 66 offenders were convicted of being violent towards women, a small fraction of the 476 cases that received judgment and that arose from the nearly 10,000 original complaints. Do the math. This means that only 86% of the time a domestic abuser receives a not guilty verdict. These figures show that only a mere 6.6% of the cases in the country are being reported. So nearly 9 out of 10 times abuse is reported, you can get away with it. Figures from the Statistics Department of the Public Prosecutor's Office in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, from January to September 2008 show that the Violence Prevention and Care Units was presented with 8,316 reports of gender violence and only 17 convictions. With no measures taken by the authorities when the acts of violence are reported, figures of domestic abuse are prone to rise. Machismo. Another influential factor of the rise of domestic violence against women is the powerfully inculcated machismo culture. The dictionary defines machismo as a strong sense of masculine pride. Clinical psychologist and professor Dr. Humberto Bogart, in his publication La Violencia Conyugal, Hacia una Solución, states that 46.7% of women in consensual unions perceive themselves as having less rights than men, and 12.2% of them justify that men beat their partners. Traditional gender role division encourages men the role of the provider, belonging to the outside world and having a public presence, while women are left being solely responsible for domestic duties. The problem of domestic violence is mostly heard of and reported by the lower class. However, this does not mean it is not apparent in the high, middle, and high classes of the Dominican Republic. This is Sandra Curdas, ex-wife of the Minister of Tourism in the Dominican Republic, Fran Jorge Elias. After posting graphic images on her Twitter, former Miss Ohio in 1975 and doctorate in medicine, Sandra Curdas made public her abuse by tweeting, "Soy Sandra Curdas, víctima de violencia doméstica," followed by the publication of these graphic images. After the Minister of Tourism ex-wife accused him of gender violence, a national district court ordered him to pay 300,000 pesos to a non-governmental organization which fights violence against women. He was also ordered to undergo psychological treatment and educational programs against gender violence. The business leader also had a travel restriction and had to visit the National District Office of the prosecutors once a month. However, none of these things were followed, only the transfer of money from the ex-minister to the government. Normalization of violence and abuse amongst young generations in the Dominican Republic is one of the most influential factors that lead to perpetration and the growing numbers of domestic abuse. Henry Molina asserts in his 2012 article, Violencia contra la Mujer, Hacia una Solución, that children who witness intimate partner violence unconsciously learn that violence is a way to achieve the objectives, and it works as long as it applies to the weaker and the helpless. That is why the first solution I will propose will be providing an education based on gender equality from early childhood that would allow for a change in the machismo mentality that exists in the country today. Molina makes an outstanding remark by encouraging that the first measure and the key to all others is education and gender equality. The preparation and training of women and the commitment of the whole society to eradicate sexist advertising and the poor image that appears of the women in the media as always linked to events or tabloids for their love affairs and marriages, and rarely shown in positions of responsibility, authority, and decision-making like men. A second solution would involve providing more effective treatment programs for men convicted of domestic violence. The Dominican law states in Article 309-5 that in all cases previewed, the court will impose guidance to the aggressors, mandatory assistance to therapy programs, or familiar orientation programs for a minimum time of 6 months in a public or private institution. The court will control the fulfillment of this penalty. Actually obliging to this law and making convicts commit to their legal 6 months of therapy, and by making the already existing facilities and programs equipped with the proper necessities and proper personnel, men convicted of domestic violence are likely to become conscious of the horrendous acts they are committing against their supposed loved ones, and figures will plummet. The Dominican society must empower women towards a better emotional, physical, and social future. The community surrounding the abused women lets the situation pass unnoticed, and these women who survive the violence not often share their experience and mistreatments with their working environments and even their family, because they feel ashamed of the lack of understanding of the problem and the social justification of violence against women and domestic violence. In order to enable victims to feel secure of the society they live in and get a sense of that the people they are around with care for them and what they have gone through, and are bringing awareness to the issue, we must come to grow and shed a light on this ongoing problem through campaigns like No Violencia a la Mujer, Si te pega no te quiere, no te ama, and Tolerancia Cero. And, of course, the worldwide national holiday on November 25th. It is time for our daughters, our sisters, our mothers, and our community to bring awareness of this issue and shed a light on the ongoing problem and support the cause to plummet the figures of this domestic violence. Thank you. The floor is open for questions. No.
Did you do any research on domestic violence, but the other way around, like gender switch? Because I mean, I know that it's very common for there to be violence like men against women, but I also know that it works the other way around as well. So did you do any research on that?
No, but the scope of my research, as I said in the beginning of my presentation, was women, domestic violence against women. However, I am aware that this happens and it maybe would be a topic of interest for future presentations. So,
in your research, the study that you found about Sandra Kuhn, are you aware that she was a mother of a student?
Yes, I'm aware. That's why I wanted to include it in my presentation to show that this problem doesn't only occur in the lower status, it also occurs in the higher strata of our social culture, and that it doesn't only happen to people like distant from you, it can happen to a close relative or someone inside your community.
In your research, did you come across anything like comparing domestic violence rates in Latin America and domestic violence rates in other places in the world? Because like it's pretty obvious that in Latin America the machismo culture is more it's more prevalent than in other parts of the world. So did you come across any statistics comparing those two?
Unfortunately, I didn't, because I was focusing my research on domestic violence. However, I agree with you that in Latin American countries, the factor of machismo is much more prevalent. Therefore, I suppose that figures in related to domestic violence are likely higher in Latin American countries than others around Europe or United States. But if you would like to your knowledge, you can like switch
Rosalia, you picked a pretty difficult topic to research and to talk about. So congratulations for doing that.
Thank you.
What would you say is the most valuable idea or thing you've gotten from your contact with all this information with your research? And can you explain it to us?
The most valuable factor or thing that I got from my presentation and doing all my research is that it's something that it not only happens to people like you see in the press, like, oh, Margarita X, I don't know who she is, okay, I'm gonna have this thing aware in my mind, but tomorrow I'll forget because I didn't know her. But something that struck out to me was that this problem is not only as I said before, current and ongoing in lower classes, but also to people around us. You don't know if the person beside you is suffering from abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse from their partners, and you don't even notice. That's something that really struck out to me, and I will take into consideration when bringing awareness to this topic.
Something I also need to follow it up. Sorry about that. Why the silence in the high classes?
In the high classes, I found research from Sisters, a reporter from the Dominican newspaper Ori, that suggests that the high and middle classes, the high classes and the middle classes of the Dominican Republic, it stays like in the closets due to reasons of social embarrassment and fear for ruining like their husband's career, because these people are shown in positions of authority, and a scandal like that, all of their name, like one of the Minister of Tourism, it can cost them their careers and their like prestiges in the Dominican society. So they decide to keep them to themselves, stay buried, and that's why it shows reoccurrence throughout the society.
In the presentation, the solutions were more like empower women and educate them. Like, don't you think there should be a consequence for something done towards the men who are doing that act? Like, don't you think that they're just paying and or going to jail? Like, shouldn't there be something else?
Yes, as I stated, there's an existing law, and when I made the point about the the authorities not making it a bigger issue for them and not caring when cases are reported. I believe that these officers should make it more that government officials should make the problem bigger, should be aware of how extensive the problem is in order for them to feel that the law is important and they should follow it.
But how can we make it big? Like, in what ways?
Maybe instead of saying that those are fights between husbands and wives, that it's normal, and saying that the violence it will go away in the morning, and like I showed in my slide. And instead of not giving importance to this, they should really be aware and really act upon the reports and implement the law that they're supposed to follow as their job.
Thank you.
Mr. Haynes?
There's a statistic that the mind keeps falling back to, because moves you there, it's the 46-12. I think you said that in people that are in relationships, approximately 50% say that there is abuse, and 12% actually justify the abuse. Is that true? There was something about,
Yes, I know.
that just seems to be a high number of people that are sort of justifying.
It says, Dr. Roberto Gantz in his publication, la violencia conyugal en la República Dominicana states that 46.7% of women in consensual unions. It means that they're not legally married, but they live with a partner and they perceive themselves as having less rights than men. And that 12.12% of this 47.6% justify that men beat their partners.
Saying that it's okay, that's a natural part.
They just,
That's a crazy number in my mind. It seems like that should be a starting point for possible solutions. Ways to eliminate that expectation. It's okay to do. Thanks.
this,
Last week, Hania presented, Hania, you're here, right? Yeah. Hania presented on the extreme of this, which is the idea of femicide. And during her question and answer session, David asked why we need separate laws for men and for women. And in both those presentations, what came up is the fact that sometimes women act violently against men as well. Where do you stand on the position of whether we need separate laws addressing male violence against women and female violence against men?
can you rephrase the question?
I can try. Okay, were you here for Hania's
Yes.
presentation? Okay, do you remember when David asked the question about why do we already have a law that forbids homicides, right? Why do we need a separate law about femicide? Okay, and that, I don't know about you guys, but that's a question I've been thinking about. Like, I'm doing my dishes, like I'm cooking my dinner, I'm like, that was an interesting question that David asked, you know, and I didn't have an answer to it right away, and I don't think you did either, Hania, in their presentation. I wonder if you thought more about it, you know. But so what I'm asking is, do we need separate laws? And I feel in the questions that you guys are asking, the fact that every time someone brings up, as Nara just did, the fact that there are also incidences where women perpetuate violence against men. Do we need one law that covers everybody, like no hitting you people, okay? Which I think we should already have. Or do we need separate laws that say that it's different for a woman to hit a man than for a man to hit a woman?
I believe that we need separate laws as there are existing laws for women. And as for your comments, when you said that there is no one single law. Actually, there is a law in Article 309-5 of the Dominican Constitution that makes illegal acts of barbarism. That means hitting or committing crimes against everyone. So it doesn't specify women and men. But then, as I showed you in Article 309-1, it specifically talks about women. So I believe that, yes, we need specific laws that actually pinpoints what is being done wrong and what is being illegal. What is illegal.
Can I follow up really quick on this? David, will you go down and stand by Rosalia? Just to humor me for a second. And Rosalie, will you step out from behind the podium? And then David, you step out too. Okay. David, will you please pick Rosalia up? Just pick her up. She's you know her well enough, right? Excellent. Okay, that's a nice way to pick up the lady. Okay, now set her down. Rosalie, will you please pick David up?
She could probably do it.
No, please. Will you go back? Did you guys see her pointer? Ernesto, do you see the point I'm making?
Yeah, I just asked you to do it.
No, I know what you said, but what I'm asking you is that, Nara, the reason I did that was to address this idea about, like, male to female violence and female to male violence. Like, there is a reason why the intensity of the violence tends to be different. If I am furious with you, Ernesto, no matter how hard I try to pummel you, I'm probably not going to get very far, right? Whereas if you get furious with me and you act barbarically, there's a lot. I mean, it's very the biological difference between men and women is something that we can't ignore when we have this conversation. So I think it's important. Sorry, Jerry.
And I was also wondering, Rosalia, part of your answer, I think, probably goes also to incidents, where if the incidence of abuse is mostly going towards women, I can see why the legislation would want to begin to address it so specifically. Not leaving men outside of it. Again, if somebody throws hot oil on me and I'm burned for life because of an argument, again, I'm the victim of domestic violence just like anybody else can be. I believe the incidents might be also impacting the need for legislation, because really legislation comes from the need of society to be ruled or controlled in a certain way. So I think also that's part of it.
You've given us a lot to think about.
Any more questions?